Good morning, men. I'm going to talk to you for the next 8 minutes about integrity and leadership. Integrity is an interesting word. The concept behind it lines up perfectly with what is meant when someone greets you with that Hebrew word shalom. Shalom means, hey, I want wholeness for you in every portion of your life. I'm praying that you will be spiritually, emotionally, mentally, and physically whole. I believe that you will prosper financially and that all of your relationships will be healthy. I want you to be a whole person. An integer, if you remember from math class, is a whole number. I want to be a whole person, not just a fraction of myself, but someone who reaches their full potential. Integral leaders are secure. That's point number one of my little talk today. Someone who's comfortable in their own skin. Someone who can love without the need for reciprocation. Someone who can turn loneliness into solitude because they're the type of person that's practicing the presence of God, so they're never alone. And fellas, that's what integrity means. It means being a whole person, very consistent, whether I'm by myself or not. And remember, everything I'm telling you today needs to be couched within the confines of progress, not perfection. Being an integral leader takes time. It's definitely something that you grow into. Walking through the first few verses of Romans chapter 5 backwards shows the pathway to great leadership. It's best summed up in the following story. There was once a great leader who was fielding questions after his leadership seminar. He was asked how he was able to obtain so much wisdom, and he simply noted that wisdom comes through experience. So then they asked him, well, what's the best way to gain the necessary experience? And he said, well, that's easy. You just got to get out there and make a lot of mistakes. Basically, Romans 5 is telling us to keep praising God even when we make mistakes, because those mistakes and that trouble is developing patience inside of us, and that's leading us to experience, and that leads us to wisdom, because patience is what's forging the tempered steel of virtue and also what is building the character of Christ into our hearts. Now, probably the toughest part of being a leader, at least for me, that I've ever had to embrace is just how much conflict you have to manage. I thought being a church leader especially, we would just all get along with each other. But no, if you want to lead with integrity, just remember this: integral leaders suffer. You're going to have to make some hard decisions, some difficult decisions. Some people are going to be happy with you. Others are going to go on the warpath. And believe me, having people upset with you as the leader is never a pleasant experience. Just remember how secure you are in your relationship with Jesus and with yourself, and the sooner you realize that leadership involves some suffering, the better off you're going to be. The absolute most difficult decision I ever had to make in ministry was when we decided to close our Christian school. People literally hated me. They blamed me for everything that happened. Handwriting was on the wall by the year 2000. We knew that it was just a fiscal issue. People that could afford our school, as the valley grew in every direction, were no longer going to drive down here into the center of the city. But, we tried to hold on. We held on all the way till 2008. I wish I could tell you during that time that I was a rock throughout the whole ordeal, but I was more of a wreck. If even one of my board members had decided to turn against me at that time, I would have been looking for employment elsewhere. The bottom had not only fallen out of the church and the school, but if you remember 2008, that's when the bottom fell out and we had this big recession. We at our church went from 9 full-time pastors on staff down to 4, and all 4 of us took 30% cuts. It was a brutal time. But God already had a plan. 10 years earlier, he'd given me a vision about having a medical clinic on our campus. But I still had no idea how that was going to happen. For a year or two, my oldest daughter had already been meeting in an alley in the inner city, ministering to about 70 children. And every one of those kids had come to know Jesus. And now, without our school, we had this big gymnasium. It was empty. I just told her, hey, Brandy, just bring those kids into the building. And that's how the City Impact Center got started. Along with ministering now to inner city kids, we were finally able also to have our medical clinic, yay, along with about 15 other ministries now on campus, reaching out to bless our community. Did you know that we have now ministered to over 150,000 people in this valley, all because I failed, because I wasn't able to keep our school going? I ran across this quote not too long ago, and it's by a man named Bernard Bell. And here's what he wrote: a good education is not so much one that prepares a man to succeed in the world as one which enables him to sustain a failure. So, not only are integral leaders secure, comfortable in their own skin, not only do they learn from suffering, but finally, point number 3, integral leaders serve. As a leader, don't ever forget that. Take your towel and your wash basin with you wherever you go. Jesus washed feet. He wasn't afraid to accomplish the mundane task. The greatest leaders wear an apron. They pick up trash. They stop to speak to those who are down and out. The best thing they ever learned in school was just how much there still is to know. They are a Timothy, and they have a Timothy. Someone is speaking into their lives, showing them their blind spots, loving them in a tough way. Because at its core, leadership is ultimately about serving others. It means inspiring them to take actions beyond their capabilities. It means leading them in a compelling direction. The teacher hasn't really taught until the student has learned. The integral leader will never lead until he or she leads through serving. Well, God bless you, men. Thank you, Aaron, for putting all of this together. And I think I'm passing this on to my good friend, Pastor Richie Box.